Coming to you from the Freedom Federal Credit Union Studios, Harford County Living presents Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Slow pitch
It's probably the least sexy part of the organization. No. The truth is,
what if the very thing you were told was holding you back was actually your greatest advantage? For millions of people, dyslexia is seen as a limitation, something that makes school harder, careers more challenging, and confidence harder to hold on to. But what if the problem isn't dyslexia itself? What if it's the way we've been taught to think about it? Today's guest grew up believing he was broken. Diagnosed with dyslexia in the first grade, he spent years trying to keep up, trying to hide the struggle, and trying to fit into a system that wasn't built for the way his brain worked. And like many people with dyslexia, he wrestled with self-doubt, perfectionism, and the constant feeling of being one step behind. But at some point, everything shifted. Instead of trying to outrun dyslexia, he decided to lead with it. Today, Willie Blake is a high-performance coach helping dyslexic professionals and entrepreneurs turn what they once saw as a weakness into a competitive advantage. Through coaching, speaking, and community, he helps people move from overwhelm and overthinking to clarity, confidence, and momentum. His approach is built around what he calls the light philosophy: love, inspiration, gratitude, hope, and time. A mindset framework designed to help people embrace who they are and build a life of purpose and success. He's also the creator of resources like the Dyslexic Achiever's Blueprint and Breaking Free, where he helps people identify the mental chains that keep them stuck and replace them with practical strategies for progress. And his message is simple but powerful. You're not broken. You're wired differently, and that difference might just be your superpower. Wow. How's it going there, Coach Willie?
I was going to say, man, what an intro. Rich, I'm excited for today.
Oh, me too. I love raising awareness on, different issues. And as we mentioned in the I mentioned in the green room, we've talked about dyslexia a few times. And it never hurts to keep talking about it and talk about it more. But you spent years believing you were broken because of dyslexia, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So take us back to that moment in your life. When did you first start feeling like you had to hide it or try to keep up with everybody else?
It was toward the end of elementary school, just like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Because I was diagnosed in the 1st grade.
Right.
Learned about it, that it was the struggle and difficulty with reading, speaking, and writing. And I'm like, cool. So we caught it early enough to where my parents intervened, and like for the last hour of each Friday, I would go out of class to go to a different classroom to hang out with other kids who were dyslexic. And we'd do like flashcards and games and all that fun stuff. Then throughout the school year, and into 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, I started seeing my friends not really want to be around me anymore. Because they're like, Who's this kid that all of a sudden he's going to different classrooms? What's he doing there? And then when he realizes that he's with other special kids who struggle with whatever they struggle with, well, who wants to hang out with a struggling kid? Wow. So... Man. You could just imagine the impact that was as a kid. And, I don't have to imagine it because I lived it.
Right.
And it's like that feeling of I was super curious and just this adventurous kid.
Mm-hmm.
But schooling, society, the kids who didn't know what they were doing because they were kids, it just kind of like started chipping away at that really adventurous Willie. To then I became really shy. I always second guessed everything, even if I had the right answer. And like, let's fast forward to high school. Even if I had the right answer and I knew it was on my paper, I did the math equation all right, I would wait 10 seconds, then 15 seconds.
Right.
And then someone else would raise their hand and say the answer. And the teacher would be like, yeah, that's right. And I'd start beating myself up and saying, man, I had the right answer the whole time. Why didn't I just speak up? But then the other part is, well, what if I spoke up and made the mistake? Well, then everyone would be judging. Everybody would be laughing at me. And so I decided, well, maybe I'll just stay behind. Maybe I just won't raise my voice. Anytime I have to say something, I have to think about it all 360 degrees each way before I do anything. The filter felt like a brick that I had to go through. And so that's what it was like. It was that kid who you see smiling in the street, just enjoying it, turn into this broken shell of a person who had to put up so many walls just because of the things that happened to him.
So, and you were diagnosed in first grade?
Yeah, first grade.
What was it that, I guess it was your parents was it your parents or the teacher that said something's not right, you have to take Willie to the doctor?
It was, so our school, I don't know what program they were doing. I just remember all the kids stood up in class, teacher walked us down the hallway to a separate classroom, filtered us in one by one. And when we got up to the desk of the 5 desks that were there, they had us read a piece of paper out loud.
Okay.
And so it was that reading. And as I read, it took a long time to get through the big words. I had to sound them out. I was stuttering. Took me probably 2 or 3 times longer than everyone else. And so at the end of that, I think that was one of the indications of Willie might have dyslexia. And then I don't remember it. But I'm sure they did like a few other tests, and then they told my parents, yeah, we think that Willie has dyslexia. And so that's around the time I was diagnosed.
Because, I mean, I think first grade, and I don't even know. I mean, God, it's been a long time since I've been in elementary school. And I'm trying to think when my daughter was in first grade, but I'm trying to remember when they started reading. Was it actually in first grade or is it kindergarten?
It's kindergarten. So I have a 6-year-old. She's in kindergarten right now, and they started the letters at the beginning of the year, and now my daughter can be able to read words.
Okay, so I meant to ask you about that. Is dyslexia hereditary? Or do you know?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It has to deal with the way that the brain's wired and the difference of that, but I do know it is genetic just because of the whole DNA, the way that the brain works and everything. But also there have been studies to where people who don't have parents or grandparents who are dyslexic all of a sudden are dyslexic and are diagnosed with it. So it's really both. It can be genetic and it can also just come up later in life.
Okay. All right. So back in elementary school, when you were diagnosed with dyslexia, I mean, and in first grade, I'm sure you didn't know what it was, but how was it? And you already said you had problems, being playing with the other kids and everything. But even as you got older and them same kids, when was it they finally understood, and you, what dyslexia actually is?
To be totally transparent, I still don't think like they totally know what dyslexia is.
Okay.
Because so many people hear the word dyslexia. And usually when I bring it up in like networking events or that, they're like, oh, so you read backwards. And I'm like, that's one part of it. That's one part of it of where sometimes the dyslexics like switch the words.
Right.
Or a B looks like a D. And that's the common thing that happens. But that's just one part. Other parts it comes down to the way in which we process information. Right. So that's from going in, that's how we interpret it, and then how we communicate it outwards. And so many people, and that's why I love talking about it, because we're starting to actually bring awareness to what it is. Yeah. Is that is dyslexia is so many different things depending on the person. It just goes into the meaning of dys being difficult and then lexia being reading. So it comes from the difficulty with reading. But my friends, I don't think they totally understand unless we had a conversation about it, what it truly was.
All right. So with dyslexia, there's not different types? Because for some reason, and I might be thinking of something else, but I thought like math could play into a role with some people with dyslexia.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
no,
okay.
you're right. Yeah. So just it's like if you were to go into like autism, there's different spectrums and different ways with it. You got dyslexia, which deals with reading, but then you got like dysgraphia, which deals with writing, and you got dyscalculia, which deals with math, difficulty with math. So there's like different versions, but usually all go under this umbrella called dyslexia.
Okay. I thought there was something with math, and I couldn't remember which one it was. I just know I suck at math, period. I mean, hey, I do. What can I say? That's just me. So, and I don't know if you can remember this, but when your parents found out, first grade, I'm sure you didn't know what their reaction was. But as you get older, did you ask them that? What was their reaction once they found out?
Funny enough, I'd never asked them that.
Really?
Like their initial reaction. But by golly, after this, I'm gonna jump on the phone with my mom and ask her about that. That's so interesting. I can't believe I never thought about that before. So no, I don't know. But like when this episode comes out, wherever it is, I'll find a way to like put a comment on it to say what that reaction was. Because I'm interested now.
Now you got me thinking. It's like, well, maybe we need to get your mom on another episode too and talk about that. Because, I mean, a lot of parents would get scared, you know, and they wouldn't know what to do. I'll be honest with you guys. Of course, my daughter's older now and my son's older, but if they did, I don't know what I would do. If anything, whether it be dyslexia, autism, AD. Well, actually, I think we all have ADHD in some way or another. I'll be honest with you. I know I probably have it. Who knows? And I think my daughter does too. But all right. So elementary school, you're out of elementary school, and I want to jump past middle school, and now you're in high school. And I'm sure once you got to high school, it was even harder. Correct?
Yeah. Because now you're not just like, it's not just like one teacher with a bunch of subjects. It's multiple teachers, multiple subjects, different ways of teaching and learning.
All right. So did it interfere? Because in high school, they always say set your career path or whatever. But did it interfere with what you wanted to do as a career? What you really wanted to do, not what you...
Yeah. Not really. Because I wanted to be a vet. I just loved working with animals.
Oh, that kind of vet. I was going to say, so you wanted to go into the military? No, I'm just messing with you.
No. Yeah, no, veterinarian. Yeah, I love,
which is a lot of study.
Yeah, absolutely. And schooling is definitely needed for that. But funny enough, the thing that dissuaded me wasn't even the studying part. It was in 11th grade. There was this side college campus thing in which high schoolers can like go off campus to get college credit. And one of the programs they had were for veterinarians. And so I went over there to see what the program was like, if I wanted to do it my senior year. And I remember walking into the room, or at least one of the side rooms, and they had a bunch of cages. And they had rats, and they had snakes, and other rodents and reptiles. And I walked out of there saying, I do not want to be a veterinarian anymore. Because I am so... Transparency, I'm scared of snakes. So bad.
Oh, I love snakes. And spiders I don't like.
Yeah, I can handle spiders more than snakes. But snakes, even the garden snakes. So one time, we're going off on this right now. 10th grade in high school, I was just waking up in my room for a normal day of school, standing there by my dresser. All of a sudden, I feel something move by my foot. And I'm like, oh, it was probably just me like kicking some of my clothes.
Right.
10th grader, room's messy.
Clothes everywhere. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, clothes everywhere. But then a minute went by and I felt another movement. And I looked down and there was a snake coiled up. And so I jumped onto my bed, yelled for my dad. Can you imagine a 15, 16-year-old yelling for his dad? So my dad comes down the stairs and we see the snake go under my dresser. And then that was just like, that was a moment for me. Later that week, when finally I had the courage to go back into my bedroom, I started picking up. But I had one of those like granny grabbers.
Yes, the grabbers. Yep.
Yeah. I would pick up everything, cleaned up the room, didn't see it. I thought it was great. And there was this one last pile of those drawstring kind of backpacks. So I picked it up, walked to the closet, and as I opened the door to the closet, the snake dropped out. And
no way.
My voice doesn't go that high, but I'll tell you what. I probably hit that like high C note.
You pulled a Michael Jackson?
Yeah, basically. And I jumped right back on the bed and had to have my little brother, who is 7 years younger than me, come in with his friend to be able to get the snake and take it back. And it was just a garden snake. And just from that moment, kind of like an Indiana Jones type thing, no snakes for me.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm the same way with spiders, especially when you've been bitten and it laid up in the hospital. You have a tendency to be tarantulas. I don't mind because they're big. You can see them coming. It's the little suckers I don't like. You know, like the black widows, the brown recluse, all that. No,
yeah,
forget it.
So after that happened, then I wanted to be a chef, and so that was going to be it.
Oh, nice.
But then I looked at like how much they made during the year, and it wasn't. It was like 19,000 at the time, and I'm like, that's decent, but it takes so many years just to get up to a professional level. So then I'm like, okay, maybe I want to go into like computer tech. That's really cool. I love playing video games. Computer tech's great. My mom one day said, hey, you're really good at Monopoly. Why don't you like do strategy stuff or business? And so I'm like, smart. Yeah, sure. And so I went into accounting because I was really good at math. And so for the first year and a half of college, I was with an accounting degree. And then it wasn't until about that time, a year and a half into it, to where I'm like, I can do the numbers and the math, but I really like talking to people. I don't want to sit behind a desk all day. So I switched it to then business management. And then that continued trajectory to where I'm at today. So dyslexia didn't really affect my career choice.
Right.
But I definitely am sure that as I went into the programs, it would affect it.
I'm surprised if you like to talk to people. I'm surprised you didn't go into communications.
The person you're talking, here's the thing. The person you're talking to today is not the person who I was 5 years ago.
Shy.
Because I was shy. Yeah. I wouldn't initiate a conversation. Heck, I wouldn't talk longer than a minute or two or be able to really do anything.
Right.
But it was from that transformation and starting to read more books and learning what this thing called entrepreneurship and business was that just continued that trajectory into now I can actually be Willie again. Not that shy one who was broken and hurt by the world, but I was able to find myself again and actually love the person on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah. Good. Now, back in school, and I'm going before the snake.
Yeah, snake. Great conversation. Awesome story for everybody. Let's go back to the
yeah. But the reason I was asking about with high school and then college, that was just you. But even from elementary school on up, how were the teachers with you and your dyslexia? And I ask this because you hear stories, especially if people that have ADHD, how they said a lot of their teachers they had no patience. And, with your reading level, I guess, is behind students in your class. So how were the teachers with all this throughout the years?
The last 2 years of high school were probably the best.
Okay.
Because we got, I believe it was I always confuse the numbers, either 504 or 529. One's financial, one has to do with learning. But one of those plans we were able to set it up to where all the teachers, literally before school started, all the teachers got into a room with me. We went over that Willie needs extra time to take tests, all the notes and presentations they give. They allowed me to have copies of it. I sat in the front of the room, so it eliminated visual distractions and just some other things that were set up. So like the last 2 years were great, but like middle school and that first year in high school, patience would be the word to use.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, they're not just like in elementary school, one teacher is teaching 30 kids. In middle school, one teacher is teaching one subject and over 100 kids because there's like 7 or 8 periods that they're going through.
Right.
And so, yeah, having one student have to get extra attention, they have to put in the extra effort, puts a lot of stress on those teachers. And there are moments where they are just not as patient with you, where they're just like, why can't you just write faster? Can you please, instead of passing it to the next person, can you please just read a paragraph? And those moments affect you. But I don't put any judgment on the teachers for that, because okay, when I was there, I did, but now I can look back and be like, you know, they were going through a lot, and I can see that. I just wish they handled it a little bit differently.
Do you think the educational system needs to be changed in a way where, I mean, perhaps there needs to be more than one teacher in a room to help, to help out with people that have different needs, whether it be dyslexia, ADHD, or whatever? Do you think that's something that needs to change in the educational system?
I think that'd be a great solution to it. That way, like one teacher can teach the main curriculum, and then one or two others can be able to go to the students who are a little bit behind. I think that'd be a great solution. But with like you think about the school system, they have their textbook. This is the curriculum that we have to teach. Yeah. And then usually, because there's just one curriculum, there's only one way to go about teaching it. And it really is open to interpretation if the teachers want to go a different route in helping other students learn, which most teachers, just because of how much is on their plate, don't want to be flexible and adaptable in that way. Right. I would think that if I were to be a teacher and like in a traditional school system, I would see as the curriculum as like the end goal that has to get done and solidify that. But the journey, the path in which I go there is a lot different depending on the student. And how I'd be able to do that to minimize time would be have something that's just like a textbook that the kids who love to read, they can be able to read it, understand it. Great. I would have a visual up for the ones who are visually learning to be able to understand it. And then I would do kind of like a role play thing for the hands-on experience ones.
Perfect.
Of just like, if you think of like George Washington going across the river and winning the battle, like it would be like a 5-minute simulation of one person's George Washington, half the class is on the other side sleeping, the other is like crossing the river, and just like a hands-on experience so that you're hitting all different learning levels and that all the students are able to understand, rather than here's a textbook and a PowerPoint that I have. Good luck.
That's a great idea. I love that. I think you need to lobby for that.
You think so?
Yeah, why not?
That's true. Why not?
I mean, seriously, you think about it, because you're seeing more and more kids today are being homeschooled. They're being pulled out of public school. And I think, in all honesty, I think the public education is hurting because of that. Because teachers' hands are tied. Let's be honest. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things they want to do that they can't do. It is hard to focus on, just individual people as well. And you have teachers' aides, but a teacher's aide isn't taught how to educate like the teacher is. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because the aide is just somebody who comes in to help the teacher out, and the teacher is the one that has to to tell them what to do. But in a weird, strange way, it's like, well, now it's just one more person that I have to teach and delegate to.
Yeah.
Rather than just like a trained teacher who's in there helping.
I want to, cause you treat this like a superpower, which I love. So what was the moment that you finally decided it's like, I'm done trying to hide this. I'm going to lead with it.
Yes. That moment came. So there's a time through that year and a half into college to where I came across a statistic. It said that 95% of CEOs read 50 or more books a year. And that's when I was starting to be like, maybe I want to go into business. So I thought it'd be really cool to be a CEO or a business owner. So I need to, I guess, read 50 books a year. That just like one and one just connected. I'm like, okay, that's just what it is. So I literally got a little note card, wrote 1 through 12 on it because I knew 50 books was just way out there. That was impossible, especially for a dyslexic who read maybe one book. But 12, a book a month, didn't seem like as impossible. So I wrote 1 through 12, went to a bookshelf, grabbed the smallest purple book I could called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, yeah.
And started reading chapter 1. And that helped to like the way that my mind was set in certain thoughts and ideas, started growing that picture. So then the mindset, which is where it comes from, my mindset started to shift. And it was probably toward the end of college to where my wife and I were about to have our first girl. And she was pregnant. We were we were at Utah at the time, moving up to Idaho to be closer with my wife's family. And it was about that time to where I started looking into what dyslexia was. And not just dyslexia, like what other beliefs that I had were, and these things that these set preconceived ideas, like, are they that set in stone? From politics to religion to literally everything. Because if anybody goes into like self-development, probably the most sure thing is that there's not just black and white.
Yeah.
It is vast gray everywhere. And so I started to grow that perspective on things. And so dyslexia was one of them. Looked it up. I'm like, what are some good things with dyslexia? And this article came up. It was like 9 things that are great advantages because you have dyslexia. And I looked at it and I was really amazed because we are great with creativity. We're great with problem solving. We think outside of the box. When it comes to patterns, we recognize patterns a lot more than the average person. And then empathy and sympathy, we're great with that. Because we've had to deal with so much. We know what it's like going through a challenge. So when other people go through it, we can sit down with them as a friend and just be like, I'm here to listen to you. I know that even though I don't know your specific pain, I got you. I'm here to sit. And just the list kept going. And then I started to research more. And I realized that you had the bad side, which society tends to push, which is difficulty with reading, writing, looking at words backwards, struggle with math, whatever you want to put there. But then you have this other side, which isn't talked about that much, which are advantages to it. Because people think if someone's going from their house to Walmart, from point A to point B, they think of one direction. But that direction for us dyslexics is full of traffic and construction. So we gotta take an alternate route around. And because we're so used to being able to figure out go different routes, we find different solutions and different ways to look at things. And because of that, man, what a great advantage. What a great advantage of being able to see so many different solutions and then coming up with the best one rather than just thinking this is the one. And so that's when it started to just evolve. It just evolved. And now it goes back to Henry Ford's quote, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. You can believe in the negative side and your mind's going to think about that, or you can focus on the good stuff and then your mind's going to help you with that. And for me, I chose to focus on the good side.
You just mentioned Henry Ford, and he didn't know how to build cars. He aligned himself with the people that do, which any person, especially business owners, you align yourself with the people that are the brains that know what they're doing and everything. With you, because you're making dyslexia your superpower, you're talking about it now, you're coaching. How many other business owners have you met that actually have dyslexia? And this is actually a two-part question, that have dyslexia. And have you started, you know how you have networking groups and mastermind groups?
Yeah.
Have you started like a group like that, but just for business owners or even people just with dyslexia? I don't want to say a support group. I want to say like a networking or a mastermind group, because like you said, you're creative, and that's when it all comes out.
Yeah. So the first part to that, yes, I see quite a few business owners, entrepreneurs out there who are doing it, because cool enough, fun fact, statistically, out of all the entrepreneurs, 30% of them have some form of dyslexia.
Right.
Because one of the major things you need as an entrepreneur is you got to be creative, you got to be innovative, and you got to figure out different ways to solve problems that other people haven't solved before. So of course, like, as some of those are the advantages for dyslexia, of course, you're going to see them out there. And so as I go to networking groups, I can tell you every time I go there is at least one or two people that are just, that I say, hey, that they're just like, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I help adult dyslexics. And they're like, oh my goodness. And they get like real close and they're like,
right,
hey, I'm dyslexic too. I think that's really cool. And you have a good conversation. Literally every time I always find somebody. And the other people I talk with, they're like, oh, my daughter is dyslexic, or, oh, my brother, he's dyslexic. They always have this connection with it. So it's like, it's really cool to see this like instant connection of something that is really a taboo topic. It's not like, you know, if your best friend is dyslexic, unless it's for some reason throughout the years you're together, you brought it up. It's just not something you talk about.
Right.
So there's always that like instant connection with it. For the second part of the question, answer is yes. So I've created this community for professionals and entrepreneurs who are dyslexic.
Nice.
And it's called Next Level Dyslexics. And it's on the school platform. People who are listening who want to join, go to my website. There's a link literally at the top and you can click on it. So that'll lead you there. But I just wanted to bring people together who are dyslexic. And then also with the clients that I have, we do every weekday, so 5 days a week, every morning at 7 a.m., we jump on a daily accountability call. And I've partnered with one of my good friends. His name's Alton. He works a lot with people with ADHD. So we both partnered together. And so we have this daily group that we meet in the morning every weekday who are dyslexic and who have ADHD. And we're just all working on the goals that we're working for.
Nice.
So, yeah, those are the two things.
That is awesome. You're listening to Conversations with Rich Bennett. We'll be right back. I've been talking about them for years, and I will keep talking about them. It's a company that I trust for my home exterior needs. Tar Heel Construction Group. When it came time to replace my roof, I didn't hesitate. I called Joe Ayler at Tar Heel Construction Group. They were professional, timely, and most importantly, they did an incredible job. The new roof looks amazing, and I know it'll last for years to come. Their quality and attention to detail are unmatched. But here's the thing. I'm not stopping there. I'm already planning to use them again for my siding and gutters. Why? Because I trust them. Tar Heel Construction Group has earned my loyalty by delivering exactly what they promised. High quality work, excellent communication, and a commitment to customer satisfaction. If you're thinking about tackling any exterior home improvement project, whether it's roofing, siding, or gutters, or even solar, give Tar Heel Construction Group a call. I've used them, and I'll keep recommending them and use them again in the future. Check them out at tarheelconstructiongroup.com or call them today at 410-638-7021. And actually, what made you decide to become a coach? I have a funny feeling. I know everybody listening probably knows this answer. But what made you decide to actually become a coach? And how?
Yeah, great questions. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted two things. I wanted to be an author, and I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know, I knew I didn't want to do like the traditional teacher route that I saw growing up, but some form of just teaching, because I love sharing stories and sharing lessons I've learned. And so as I was in college, learning about business and reading these books, I was like, this is really cool. I'm going to create this mastermind of just every week I rent out or reserve, I guess you should say, the library at UVU, the college that I went to. And every Wednesday at 6:00, I would be there, and it would start at 6:30. It would be an hour long, and people who just wanted to be successful can come and do it. And that was literally that was it. If you want to be successful at all, you can come. First meeting, 0 people came. But I still hit record and still taught what I wanted to do. Next meeting, still 0 people. Next one, we got 1, which was the friend who helped me with the idea. And then next meeting, 0. But then eventually 1 person did come as I was putting it out on Instagram and stuff. And then that started to build it while I was at college. And so that was kind of just like, I really like this format of facilitating and teaching and speaking. So I'm like, maybe I want to be a public speaker. So I started practicing and speaking on stages, learning how to communicate and take out the ums, the ahs, the so's, keeping in this box of arms, everything you learn in like business presentation class. And kept going from there to then being, there's this thing called coaching that I heard from a friend. And it's literally you just work one-on-one with somebody. And that was the extent of what I knew. I thought, cool, that sounds great. And so my very first client was my cousin, who he's just like, I love what you're doing. I want to work with you. And I'm like, cool. We can work for a year and it's $500 for the whole year. And he's like, cool. And so he paid me. And like that was, and then from there we just built it. And it's like, I'm like, this is really cool. But it started it was at the level of like, I'm just this success coach. And I learned a year into it, when you are talking about just success and speaking to everybody, nobody's listening. So then I wanted to be the empowerment coach. No, I didn't give up. Kept going. So then I niched down a little bit and said, I want to be an empowerment coach. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then this is where like the whole dyslexic thing came in. I was talking with one of my good friends, Ian, and it was after a mastermind that we were both at. And we were standing there. It was raining outside, and we talked for like an hour and a half just after the meeting. And he said, after I asked him, like, how do I find more people? I feel like I only have people who like are super close to me, but I'm not getting anybody else. He said, well, who's your ideal client and audience? I couldn't answer him. I went off the whim of just so many, like, they're people who want to be successful, and they're people who just like want to believe in themselves and feel inspired. He says, that's cool. That's great. Every coach does that though. So like, who are you actually helping? And we're able to niche down. He's like, you've lived with dyslexia your entire life. So why not just start there? And on the car ride home, I thought about it and said, that sounds really, really, really easy. Easy was the word, because I've lived through it and I don't have to really learn anything super out there before I started, because I've lived with it my entire life. So then I was the dyslexic coach. And then as I was doing that, I'm like, well, I want to not just focus on people who are dyslexic, but I want to focus on like the achievement side. That if you do, like, if you're diagnosed, now what? Now what are we doing? Like, what do you want to do? What's your passion? So then it was the dyslexic achievement coach. And then it kept going to now I'm like, I want to specialize and focus on adult dyslexics, not kids or teens. There's a lot of resources out there for them.
Right.
And I'm more than happy. I love going to elementary schools and being able to speak at assemblies and colleges for young adults. But I want to give a resource to the adult dyslexics where they don't get that many. I want to help them actually achieve what they want. And that most of the time, about 85% is in their careers or starting a business. So then I knew I had to up my game in order to help more people out. And so then I started working on high performance and habits and everything, to which then I started helping people with their careers and their resumes and then starting businesses. And from there, just like from that success coach at the beginning, kept niching down. And this is over a span of 6 years. Let me mind you, 6 years. Just kept niching down to now I help dyslexic entrepreneurs and professionals to be able to gain clarity, to stop second guessing themselves, and to build the confidence to make more income with their dyslexic edge. So
nice.
That's the whole thing of why it was niched down to where it is today.
And you created the light philosophy?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah. If any of you who are listening know who Evan Carmichael is, this dude was my very first mentor.
Okay.
And not in-person mentor, just first person I saw. Because I was watching a YouTube video, and it was, first off, it was Grant Cardone's 5 Ways to Make $1 Million.
Yes.
30 minutes long. Still one of my favorite videos, by the way. After that, one of the suggested videos was Grant Cardone's top 10 rules for success. And that was made by Evan Carmichael. And as I clicked on it, I learned that Evan didn't just do videos about Grant Cardone, but like Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, like these people who are out there and are doing things.
Yeah.
Like he creates these top 10 rules of success. And it's basically from all the speeches that they give and all the conferences that they're at, compile together the most common themes to it and these top 10 rules. And so I started to get into his community and learning more about him. And one of the books that he wrote was called Your One Word Why. Well, his book is called Your One Word, but it's your one word why. It's your why. The reason you do everything smushed down into a single word. So through all the exercises that he lays out in his book, as well as what I did, my one word why was light. Light. And that was just the opposite of darkness.
Oh, damn.
Because darkness was what I felt like my entire life. It was the obstacles, the challenges that I faced. It was what I perceived as the traumas. It was me sitting there in the dark feeling like I didn't have anybody else. And so it was that hero villain moment. And I'm glad that I chose to be the hero, because now when other people are there, I want to be that friend who opens the door, shares light into the room. And when they look up at me, I hold my hand out and say, I know what you've been through. And there's something better on this other side. So come with me. Let's walk it together.
Wow. And how long did it take you to come up with the acronym for it?
Literally like last year or the year before.
Really?
So that was the light was at least 5 years ago, at least.
Okay.
No, it was 2019, so even more than that. And so it was just like in 24 or 25 where the acronym came up, where I'm like, I have light, but whenever I describe it to people, it feels like I have to share so many things when it comes to it. So what can I do? Well, acronyms are just really cool.
Yeah, they are.
Break down so easy. They're really cool. So I said, what are some things that work well with it? And then it came to L is for love. Love yourself as well as love other people. I is for inspiration. Continually do things each day to inspire you, as well as we are built to serve. So let's inspire other people. Gratitude. If you want to change your attitude, change your gratitude. I started learning what it means to be grateful, and that stress can't live with a truly grateful person. Or I guess not stress. Anxiety can't live in the same realm as gratitude.
Okay.
And so being grateful, there's just this power to it that a lot of people don't know. Hope. Hope has been everything since the beginning of the past is the past. The future is the future. Let's focus on the future more and start living today. Let's see what we can do. And then the last one, it was probably the hardest. I'm like, what is a good word for T? It's like tenacity. Tenacity is good, but it doesn't really fit. What are some other good words? And finally, I thought about everything that I did. I'm like, it's time.
Yeah.
Because time is truly all that we have. We can't get it back.
No.
And so that's where the acronym came from.
All right. So, I mean, you're speaking, you're the coach, and you said there was something else you wanted to do. So when's the book coming out?
Yeah. So book's out. Yeah.
What?
So I've co-authored books with several authors. And so I've 11-time Amazon bestselling author books. If people can see me on video, they're right behind me, but there's 11 books that I've contributed with chapters there, which is awesome.
Wow.
And then I also have a book in the works that has to do with Light It Up. And it's about the different stories and different things I'm learning with my 2% rule, 1 minute, one thing, my GPS method, my LIGHT acronym, just everything that I've been doing. So that's in the work. And I've written about 45,000 words so far with it.
Nice.
And so we're just, it's in the works and it's coming. The personal one. That's the next thing when it comes to authorship is now I have books out there who are co-authored with other people.
Right.
Man, I want my own. It would be really cool just to have my name on it.
I had no idea that you had already written. That blows my mind. That is awesome, man.
Yeah. And it's here's the thing. It was, I think, 2021 after the major, like a year into the pandemic, Christmas season. I really wanted to just finish what I already written 23,000. Took me a year and a half to do. I just wanted to get done by the end of the year, but I only had 13 days. And so I told myself I can either push it off as a New Year's resolution for next year and maybe it'll get done, or I can see if I could finish it in those 13 days. And if anybody has ever had family around during the Christmas season and during the end of the year, your schedule's busy and people are always wanting your attention. So literally, no matter when I fell asleep, I chose to set an alarm for 4 a.m. every morning to get up before everybody else. That way I could spend a couple hours being able to write in the right paragraphs and words in the book. And over those 13 days, I was then able to get to more than that 45,000 words. So I was able to double what I did for a year and a half in 13 days. And I gotta say,
amazing.
Can I share the most important lesson I learned from it?
Absolutely not. Of course you can, man.
Is that anybody can do something for 13 days. 13 days won't kill you, but it just might be the start you need.
That could be a title for a next book too.
Amen to that.
It could be
for sure.
Actually, I'm okay. So you're writing and everything. You're a speaker. How come you haven't started a podcast?
I do have a podcast, actually.
What? Oh, come on now.
Yeah, it's called Light Beyond Limits.
How long you been doing that?
February of 24.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So we're at episode, I believe we're at episode 158 right now.
How in the hell did I not? Wait a minute. Is it on your website?
Yeah, it should be on my website. You can also find it on Spotify and your favorite podcasting platform. It should be there. For some reason, all the Apple, we're working on the Apple Podcasts and everything because for some reason with I use Spotify for podcasters. Something happened in there to where now you have to put in the RSS feed link and set up an account. Anyways, so if it's not on Apple Podcasts, it will be soon. But yeah, we're episode 158. Right.
Now, unless you have a different website, I'm looking on CoachWillieBlake.com and I'm not seeing the podcast there.
Well, I don't like that.
But
I'm going to have to check that out.
I just told everybody the website where they can find out more information about you, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it there.
Now that I know, by the time that this comes out, it's going to be there. If you scroll down, I know for sure that it's usually with my social link. So if you scroll down all the way to the bottom where it has like YouTube, Instagram, there's
the YouTube link. Okay.
Well, it should be a Spotify link there.
No.
YouTube,
okay. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok.
Well, you learn something new every day. That's the great thing with business. You're just like, you hear it from other people and you're like, all right, here's some things we need to fix.
Well, and here's the reason I didn't know you had a podcast was because on Podmatch, usually it'll list if you have a podcast as well. And on your profile, I'm not seeing anything about a podcast.
Yes. So my podcast is not on Podmatch. It's specifically my podcast first started so that I could work on my speaking skill.
Okay.
That's a
good idea.
Yeah. So it literally started with just me grabbing my phone, recording for 10 to 12 minutes because that just seemed like a good time.
Yeah.
And started to work on communication. And then after that, I started to bring people on because the whole premise of the podcast is with Light Beyond Limits. We talk about the breakthroughs and stories that people have had with their limitations and the lessons they learned from it. And so I just didn't want me. I wanted some other people. So I started reaching out to the people who I thought would be good on the podcast. And right now, even though we're at episode 158, it's still like, I'm going to choose which people to be on the podcast, but it's not like a huge main focus. And that's why it's not out there. It's like the people who pop on are the ones who we connect with. And I'm like, let's get you on my podcast.
Right.
But as you know, as my other priorities start to get more into automation and that, then we'll start working on the podcast and getting that out there more and such.
Those of you listening, Willie mentioned something here, and I've never brought this up, and it's a great idea. He mentioned how he was doing it first to get comfortable speaking and everything. And there's a lot of people that want to start a podcast, but they're nervous about it. There are hosting platforms out there where you can do a private podcast. You don't have to make it public. And it will give you a link. And if you want to share it with people and get their opinion, you can do that as well. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Willie, because a lot of people don't know about that. And that's a great idea. That's a great idea. All right. I have to ask you this because I've been wanting to ask you this since the beginning. I wanted this to be my first question, but I figured now I'll wait towards the end because otherwise we wouldn't be talking about dyslexia. We'd be talking about something else.
Okay.
How's the baby?
Rich, thank you for asking. Baby is doing great. Baby is doing well. So for those who don't know, right now, we had our fourth baby girl.
Fourth?
So I'm a girl dad.
Wow.
So fourth baby girl, had her beginning of January, and baby's doing well. Mom's doing well. We had something crazy happen, which was around the beginning of February. We did a C-section. And so as my wife was healing, she had this like sharp pain on her right side next to the incision, but it wasn't on the incision. So as she called up the doctor's office, they said, yeah, just because we want to be careful of what's going on in infections and stuff, go ahead and head to their emergency room. We said, okay. So we headed there, and lo and behold, she had appendicitis.
Oh.
And we were lucky because it wasn't to the point to where it bursted or anything.
Right.
It was just like the beginning stages of it.
Wow.
So literally that evening, I dropped her off at the hospital with the baby, and she called me at 6:00 and said, "Hey, I got appendicitis. Can you call our neighbor to come watch the kids so you can rush over here to be with me and then also take care of the baby?" Of course, the nurses, we all know the nurses, they would love to have the baby, but because of legal reasons, right, they can't do that. And so I was able to call the neighbor, love the neighbors that we have. They came over to watch the kids, they rushed to the hospital. She had the surgery, took about an hour, and we're out of that hospital by 10:30 that night to go back home. And so she's recovered from having a kid. She's recovered from having the surgery. And yeah,
amazing.
Baby and mom are doing good.
All right. Now, okay, this one baffles me. 4 girls?
Yes, 4 girls.
How is it you have all your hair?
You know, I don't know.
I mean, holy cow. I have 1 son and 1 girl, but my son doesn't live here, but now I'm home with 2 Irish redheads, and there ain't nothing left on the top of my head. Holy cow. And my best friend, 4 girls, and there's nothing left up there.
Yeah. Lot of prayers, a lot of, you gotta know how to communicate with your wife to help out. And they're really good. And even
good.
We had there are those moments, like my oldest daughter, she literally cut her hair a few years back all the way down to like a bowl cut shape. And so now it's just getting long enough to where where we enjoy it. But when she did that, it's just like you put your hands up and it's like, but then there's this weird thing, and I think only parents can understand this, which is something happened to such a degree that your emotions turn off and you're just like, all right, let's just figure out what the solution is.
Yeah.
Because like the haircut, or I remember another time to where my kids got into my wife's makeup and woke up in the bathroom. There was just makeup everywhere. I was like, all right, let's just get the paper towels and do this. And like you shut off your emotions. And I feel like you only understand that as a parent. But you just take it in strides. You just live every day. And it tends to work out. I'm not dead, so it tends to work out.
And you laugh at it when you get older. I'll never forget with my son, his mother called me one day, and this is back in the time when you had VCRs, and she called me because he decided to take a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and put it inside the VCR.
Oh yeah, heck yeah!
I mean, what else? Trying to flush stuff down the toilet that should not go down the toilet. I think he flushed keys down there.
Oh damn!
At one time, oh yeah, not good. But we did crazy things as kids too. That our parents. And one thing that I learned, because I always did it, never tell a kid not to do something, because if you tell them not to do something, they're going to do it.
Yep.
And my mother did that with me. Yes, my mother used to do that with me all the time. She'd tell me not to do something, and lo and behold, I would do it, get my head stuck between railings, get my thumb stuck in a soda can. All kinds of crazy stuff. Oh, God, good. I'm glad to hear that they're doing well then, man. That is, and for those of you listening, so Willie and I were supposed to record, I think it was back in January, and we had to reschedule because you were headed to the hospital because,
Yeah, it was right at that pregnancy, and we rescheduled this.
Good. Glad to hear that. All right, so if you could go back and talk to that first grade version of yourself who thought he was broken, what would you tell him today?
I would tell him, keep smiling, keep playing, and that no matter what anyone else says, and no matter how hard life gets, he's a pretty awesome dude.
I love that. I love that. Is there anything you would like to add before you pick the last question?
Yeah. The last thing I would add is, for you who are listening, we talked a lot about dyslexia today, and we had a lot of fun, a lot of jokes around. It was great. But when it comes to actually wanting to get something done, when achieve that, you could use the words achieving a goal, reaching for a dream, getting that more specifically like a promotion or a relationship going. It truly is that simple of pick one thing you want and do one thing today. Just one thing. Your to-do list and everything is there and it feels so stressful. But just pick one thing. Because if you do one thing each day, it's going to compile. And it might not feel like it in the moment. A week or a month in, it might just be like, man, I still don't feel the traction. But it will come as a result and it will happen. That's how I got from that one book to now I actually read 60 plus books a year. That's how I went from that writing from one word, one paragraph to now having 45,000 words. All that started by reading one page, by typing one paragraph. And for the ones who's listening, it's just by picking one thing to go forward with.
You must have been reading my mind because I was going to ask you how many books you were reading now.
Yeah.
So,
and here's a cool thing with it is that I say reading, but it's not just reading. It's also listening to.
Yeah.
It's books gone through because like, when it comes down to it, what's the real reason why we read books? Well, if it's not fiction, usually if it's like self-development, personal growth, history, biographies, it's to learn something that we can apply to our life. So understanding that, now in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so it's not just reading because I read slow,
right?
But I can also listen to the books and I can listen a lot faster than I can read. So if I combine those together, well, then I can get through more books. And that's how I went from that 12 to then 40 to then 50 and now 60 books, is that I turned my car instead of music or just silence. I turned it into my classroom, turned it into a library. And now I listen to books. And whenever I'm going about and doing stuff, I still have my entertainment stuff. I still watch YouTube videos of Pokemon and other stuff that I love doing. But it's just like, I also add some time for the stuff that helped me in the beginning because I want to keep that. It wasn't just, I did 50 books and now I'm done. No, it's become a part of me. So
I missed that car classroom because when I was in sales, I was always listening to books on tape or CD or whatever. And now when I'm working, now that I'm just working in my office from home all the time, I'll either listen to a podcast or put on a book. Well, Audible now. So different things you can do now. But my daughter and I got into an argument about that. She goes, Dad, if you're listening to a book, you're not reading. I was like, yes, you are. She goes, no, you're not. I said, yes, you are. You're still sinking it in. She goes, no, it's not reading. It's like, if an author tells me it's reading, it's reading. So you lose this argument. Forget it. You're not making more hair fall out. All right.
Because there's so much there, right?
Yeah. All right, Willie, pick a number between 1 and 5.
1.
1. All right. Now pick a number between 1 and 20.
Ooh, 20.
20. All right. Oh, okay. What is a question you often ask yourself?
What if I could do more?
How do you answer that?
Answer is always yes, but give myself grace if I can't do it right now.
Willie, I want to thank you so much, man. It's been an honor. The door is open anytime you want to come back because I know there's a lot more we could have talked about.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're talking about dyslexia, you can't cover everything in an hour. So, matter of fact, we might have to do another roundtable.
Yeah.
Again.
Part
that
2.
could be fun.
I
like it. Thanks a lot, Willie.
My pleasure. Thank you.
What really stuck with me from this conversation is this idea that maybe, just maybe, the thing you've been trying to fix about yourself isn't something that needs fixing at all. Willie spent years thinking he was broken, holding back, second guessing, trying to keep up with everyone else. And I guarantee there are people listening right now who know exactly what that feels like, even if it has nothing to do with dyslexia. But what he showed us today is that sometimes the shift isn't about changing who you are. It's about changing how you see who you are. Because once he stopped trying to hide it and started leading with it, everything changed. Confidence, direction, purpose. And I love what he said toward the end. Don't overcomplicate it. Just pick one thing. One thing you want to move forward on and take one step today. That's it. Because those small steps, they add up. Willie, I want to thank you, man. Not just for sharing your story, but for the work you're doing. Because there are a lot of people out there who need to hear this message. And for everyone listening, if this episode made you think, if it made you reflect, or if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing about yourself you've struggled to accept that might actually be your strength? Let me know. Leave a comment or reach out to me directly. And as always, let's keep the conversation going.